now you have learnt what do you mean by duplicate ratio, what do you mean by triplicate ratio, what do you mean by subduplicate ratio, what do you mean by subtriplicate ratio, inverse ratio and compound ratio. So you have learnt the different varieties of ratios and their terminologies. Now the concept is called proportion. It's a very important concept. Most of the times the proportion concept we are going to use in time and distance, trains, time and works, pipes and cisterns. In most of the concepts we are going to use the concept called proportion. So what do you mean by proportion? See, proportion is nothing but the equality of two ratios. The equality of two ratios are said to be in proportion. Okay, so when the two ratios are equal, then their values are said to be in proportion. The values are said to be in proportion. So consider the two ratios. Consider the two ratios. The two ratios are A is to B and C is to D. If these two ratios are equal, then the terms of the ratios are said to be in proportion. Okay, the terms of the ratios are said to be in proportion. See here A and D are called as extremes, B and C are called as means. So see here, the product of two extremes is equal to the product of two means. Therefore A into D is equal to B into C. So the product of two extremes is equal to the product of two means. Okay, you may take an example. Consider the example such as 3 is to 4 is equal to 3 is to 4 is equal to 12 is to 16. See here, the product of two extremes is equal to product of two means. Therefore 3 into 16 is equal to 12 into 4, means 16 3s are 48 is equal to 12 4s are 48. So 48 is equal to 48. So product of two extremes is equal to product of two means. See, these equalities they are going to represent in a different format also. That is, see here, A is to B is as to C is to D. That equal sign they are going to represent in this form, is as to. Therefore A is to B is as to C is to D. So is as to is nothing but both the ratios are equal. Then the terms of the ratios are said to be in proportion. For example, 3 is to 4 is as to 12 is to what? So this term is called fourth proportion. Third proportion, second proportion, and first proportion. Okay, the first term is called first proportion, second term is called second proportion, next third proportion and fourth proportion. Next, see here the next concept. Mean proportion. Mean proportion means the mean values of the two ratios are equal, means A is to B is equal to B is to C. So this is called mean proportion. So C is called as third proportion, B is called as second proportion and A is called as first proportion. So A is to B is equal to B is to C. So where the two middle values are equal means the means values are equal. So these type of proportions are called as mean proportion. So here product of two extremes is equal to product of two means B square is equal to AC. So this is called mean proportion. Next, you have a concept called direct proportion and inverse proportion. So what do you mean by direct proportion? See here, let me give you an example. For example, you are buying 10 chocolates and you are paying 50 rupees. You are buying 10 chocolates and you are paying 50 rupees. If you want to purchase 20 chocolates, How about the price? Whether it is going to increase or decrease? Definitely it is going to increase. Okay, if you want to purchase only 5 chocolates, whether the price is going to increase or decrease? Definitely it is going to decrease. So this is called direct proportion to each other. Means if one value is going to increase, the other value is also going to increase in the same proportion as the first value is increased. And if the first value is going to decrease, the second value is going to decrease in the same proportion as the first value is decreased. See, the number of chocolates from 10 to 20 I increased. So into 2. So obviously the price should be 50 into 2, 100. So it is also twice, it is also twice. In the same proportion it is increased. In the next condition, I decreased to 5. So 10 by 2, 5 means I am dividing by 2. So 50 by 2, 25. So 5 chocolates, 25 rupees. In the same proportion it is reduced. Okay. So this is called directly proportional to each other. If one value increases, other value also increases. See here, if A increases, B also increases. If A decreases, B also decreases, okay, in the same proportion. So this is called direct proportion to each other. This is called direct proportion. Now the concept is called inverse proportion. So what do you mean by inverse proportion? For example, from here to you have to travel to some x distance, okay, from here you have to reach some x distance, means you have to travel from here and you have to reach to x. So normally you may take 5 hours to reach the destination. So if you want to reach the destination within 3 hours, means what do you have to do? Obviously you have to increase the speed. If you are not going to increase the speed, means definitely you cannot reach within 3 hours. So if you are traveling from here to x, so you are taking 5 hours. If you want to reach within 3 hours, means obviously you have to increase the speed. Means the time is reduced and the speed is increased. Next, if you want to reach the same destination in 8 hours, now you are taking 5 hours, next you want to take 8 hours, means what you have to do? Obviously you have to decrease your speed, otherwise you cannot reach the destination in 8 hours. Means what? The time is increased and the speed is reduced. So here the one quantity is increasing and other is decreasing, okay. So one is increasing, other is decreasing, one is decreasing, other is increasing. The first condition, time is reduced, speed is increased. The second condition, time is increased, speed is reduced. So this is called inversely proportional to each other, okay. So see here, if A quantity increases, if A increases, then B decreases. If A decreases, then B increases, then B increases. So this is called inversely proportional to each other. For example, now I am taking 6 hours to reach, okay, now I am going to double my speed, then obviously I am going to take 3 hours to reach the destination, means speed I did into 2, speed I did into 2, then time is going to become half. See, 2 and 1 by 2 both are inverse ratio. See, 2 1 by 2. 1 by 2 is the inverse ratio of 2. So this is called inversely proportional to each other. If I increase the speed, if I doubles the speed, then the time is going to be reduced by time is going to be reduced by half, okay. So speed into 2, time 1 by 2, so 2 and its inverse is 1 by 2. So this is called inversely proportional to each other. While explaining time and distance in detail, again I am going to explain this concept. This concept is very important. So now you have learned what do you mean by proportion. So what we call the terms in the two ratios when they are equal. And next you have learned the product of two extremes is equal to product of two means, okay, the four proportional values and the mean proportional values also you have learned. The mean proportional values, the two middle values are equal, then these values are called as mean proportion, that one also you have learned. Next, direct proportion and inverse proportion. So the concepts regarding proportion, okay, all the concepts you have learned, okay. So now let's go to the problems. Problem number 1. P is to Q, P is to Q is equal to 8 is to 15. Next, Q is to R is equal to 3 is to 2 is equal to 3 is to 2. Then you have to find P is to Q is to R. P is to Q is to R. See here, Q is in middle. Q is in middle. And now, in these two ratios, which is common? Q is common. Q is common. But are the values of Q same? Are the values of Q same? No. Then we have to make the values same such a way that the ratio should not change. So we have to change the magnitude, but ratio should not change. So what options we have? We have only two options. That is, the first one is we can multiply a common number, and the second one is we can divide it by a common number. So the easy thing is we can multiply it by a common number. So the common number, see here we have 3. So you multiply 3 to the terms of the ratio 8 and 15. Next, here you multiply 15. See here, this 3 here you are multiplying, this 15 here you are multiplying. So 8 into 3, 24, 15 into 3, 45, again 15 into 3, 45, 15 into 2, 30. Further you can simplify. See here, 3 8s are 24, next 3 15s are 45, 3 10s are 30. So the ratio is 8 is to 15 is to 10. So 8 is to 15 is to 10 is the ratio. So option C is the right answer. Okay, you can avoid one step here. Let me explain how. See here, 8 is to 15, next 3 is to 2. So we have to make this one as common. So what is the ratio between these two? 3 1s are 3, 3 5s are 15. 3 1s are 3, 3 5s are 15. So the ratio between those two is 1 is to 5. So you multiply 1 to these two terms. Okay, this one you have to multiply to these two terms, and this 5 you have to multiply to these two terms. Next, 8 is to 15 is to 10. Directly you are going to get the value. See here, 1 into 8 you get 8, 1 into 15 you will get 15, 5 into 3 you will get 15, and 5 into 2 you will get 10. So directly you are going to get the final answer, that is 8 is to 15 is to 10. Okay, so very simple to calculate. P is to Q is to R. So Q is common for both the two. So you have to make Q same. Okay, so 8 is to 15 is to 10. Therefore C is the right answer. Okay, let's go to the next problem. Problem number 2. Problem number 2. P is to Q is equal to 8 is to 15. Q is to R is equal to 5 is to 8, and R is to S is equal to 4 is to 5. Then you have to identify P is to S. So see here, P is to Q, next Q is to R. So what are the values? P is to Q, 8 is to 15, Q is to R, 5 is to 8, 5 is to 8. So you find P is to Q is to R. You find P is to Q is to R. So what do you have to do? See, 5 1s are 5, 5 3s are 15. The ratio into 1 into 3. Okay, so 8 into 1, 8, 15 into 1, 15, next 8 into 3, 3 8s are 24. So P is to Q is to R is 24. Next you have R is to S. So R is to S means 4 is to 5. R is to S means 4 is to 5. So you have to make this one as common. So what is the ratio between 4 and 24? 4 1s are 4, 4 6s are 24. Okay, so you multiply these terms by 1 and you multiply these terms by 6. So 1 into 8, 8, 1 into 15, 15, 1 into 24, 24, 6 into 5, 30. So the ratio between these four values, P is to Q is to R is to S. So 8 is to 15 is to 24 is to 30. But what they are asking? They are asking us to calculate P is to S. So that is, P value represents 8, S value represents 30. So that is 8 is to 30. 8 is to 30. 8 is to 30 we can further simplify. 2 4s are 8, 2 15s are 30. Therefore the answer is 4 is to 15. 4 is to 15. See, this method is very important. Sometimes they may ask you to calculate P is to R. Sometimes they may ask you to calculate Q is to S. Sometimes they may ask you to calculate Q is to R. Okay, so these type of questions they may ask. So this is the feasible method. But in this question, they have asked us to calculate P is to S. They have asked us to calculate P is to S. P first term, S last term. P first term, S last term. Then you have a technique to solve, very simple technique. See here, P is to Q is nothing but P by Q. Next, you multiply Q by R you are going to get, then again you multiply, you are going to get R by S. So what is P by Q? 8 by 15 into Q is to R 5 by 8 into R is to S 4 by 5. So 5 cancel, 8 cancel, ultimately you are going to end up with 4 is to 15. So the answer A is the right answer. 4 is to 15. So you can do in this manner. Okay, you can multiply the ratio P by Q into Q by R into R by S. If you do, yes, definitely you are going to get 4 is to 15. So option A is the right answer. Let's go to the next problem, problem number 3.